You will hear a conversation between a staff member from Gaia's Guardians and a man who wants to do something to protect the environment. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello, how may I help you?
Well, I've been seeing these yellow boxes in front of a lot of houses in my neighborhood. Just wondered what they were for. I noticed your phone number on all of them, so I called. Could you tell me about your business?
We do recycling, but we're not a business. Gaia's Guardians is a non-profit group. We encourage recycling as a way of protecting the environment.
I don't know. I mean, it is a good idea, but I really don't read the newspaper every day or anything.
And we don't come collect newspapers every day. In fact, we only do pickups every other week.
Oh, well, then maybe I could help. I mean, in my neighborhood, there's too much rubbish lying around everywhere. I'd like to help out, I guess.
That's great, sir. You're doing the right thing. Okay, I need to get your contact information. What's your name, please?
Peter Wisrow.
Peter, how do you spell your last name? W-I-S-R-O-W?
No, actually, it's W-I-S-R-O-U-G-H.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a terrible speller.
You're a good speller. It's just that my family are terrible pronouncers.
You're quite a card, Peter. Okay, now what's your address?
Number 168 Bridge Road. That's here in London. How about if I have any questions?
I'm sending you a copy of our booklet too. The booklet has our phone number and our email address, helpline@blackcat.com. That's HELPLINE @BLACKCAT.com. But I nearly forgot to ask, what's your postcode?
BS9 7PU.
PS97BU?
No, that's B as in boy, S9 7P as in Peter, U.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
So I'm guessing those yellow boxes I saw are for recycled newspapers.
Yes, that is correct, and it's free of charge.
Wow, that's good news. Do you recycle anything besides newspaper?
Oh yes, we recycle most everything. Glass, plastic, paper.
Oh, so I can put like glass and plastic bottles in the box.
Sorry again. Things like that you have to bring to our collection centre.
And where is that?
Our main centre isn't that far from you. It's actually right on the east side of Central Park.
That new blue building?
That's the one.
Cool. Hey, what's with all those different colored boxes outside that place?
Oh, that's for the different materials we recycle. The blue is for metal, the green is for glass and plastics, and the yellow, of course, is for paper.
Okay. I'll try and manage to keep all that straight.
Oh, no need. They're each labelled.
Great. So which one would I put magazines in?
Actually, they don't go in any of the bins. Unfortunately, magazines can't be recycled because of the material they're made of. It's such a waste. So, would you be interested in volunteering?
I'll think about it. Could you send me some more info?
Absolutely. Along with the newspaper box, I'll be sending you our booklet, Savvy. That is SAVVY. It tells you about what you can do to protect the environment in your daily life. Plus, it lists things you can do as a volunteer with our group.
Hey, that's cool. Thanks.
My pleasure. Do you have any other questions or concerns?
Nope, that's it.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
You will hear a residence manager giving a short question and answer session to new residents. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully to the question and answer session and answer questions 11 to 15.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Simon and I am the manager of this residence. Most of you here today are new in the town of Westley. Some of you are students at the uni, some have new jobs, and some have other reasons to be with us. When we have lots of new people staying with us, I do one of these little question and answer sessions so that I can help you settle in. So, let's get started straight away. Yes, over there.
Hi, I'm Margaret. I'm a student here. I was wondering where I can do my laundry. It won't be long before this is an urgent thing for me.
Here in the residence we are planning a little laundrette beside reception, but this might take a little time to organise. In the meantime, there's a little laundrette down the road. It's in Queen's Avenue, the same street that the residence is in. You go about 500 metres up the road in the opposite direction to the town centre, and it's on the right. They have plenty of machines and dryers, and there's a lady there called Betty who does service washes. You just need to drop it off and it will be laundered, dried and ironed the next day. It's a bit more expensive of course, but good if you're lazy. Another question?
Hi, my name's Jo. I've got a new job at the other end of the high street. I was wondering which the best bus was to go there.
The best bus for the centre of town is the 38. That takes you straight to the square. If you work at the end of the high street though, that still leaves you with about a 10-minute walk. The 39 goes to the train station, which is very near the end of the high street. So that's your best bet probably. The 39 is good for coming home late at night as well, because the station buses go on later than the other buses. There's the 35 bus too, for getting to the high street, but it goes to the near end of the high street, and it's a good 20-minute walk after getting off. Anyone else? You there?
I'm a student too. I'm new in the area and I have to register for my council tax. Do you know where I have to go to register?
Yes, we get lots of people in your situation. You other students need to do this too. First of all, get the information sheet from the Students' Union, which has lots of guidelines on registering and the discounts you should get. The Students' Union is in Newbolt Street. I'm sure you know that. The actual putting your name on the list though should be done at the town hall, which is right next to the square. Some people are told that you can do it at the police station, but that's just the registration for non-UK nationals, not the council tax.
You now have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen to the rest of the short question and answer session and answer questions 16 to 20.
Any more questions? Come on, I'm sure you must have some more.
Yes, I was wondering what we do in the case of a fire here at the residence.
Well, the first thing to do is to raise the alarm by setting off the electric alarm system. Then, if the fire is not big, try and use the fire extinguishers that you'll find round the residence. If the fire is in any way large, just get out and go to the assembly point on the front lawn. Try not to go in the front or back car parks, as that's where the fire brigade will set up their stuff. You don't need to call the fire brigade, as our residence alarm is linked up to their system. Make sure you read the fire notices around so you know where the nearest fire escape is to your room. Don't panic and rush around. That gets people hurt. Just go briskly to the assembly point. Once every 6 months we have a fire drill, which is attended by someone from the fire service to make sure we're up to scratch. One of these might be at night, so be ready.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to ask what time the TV room closed for the night. It's just that my room is just across from it and I don't want to be kept awake all night.
The usual cut-off time for the TV room is 11 p.m, though this is extended by 1 hour on Fridays and Saturdays. I know that some people want to watch late-night films, but then you'll just have to buy your own TVs for your rooms. If you do have a TV in your room, then please think of others and keep the volume down. We take a very dim view of people disturbing others in the residence. The same goes for the TV room itself. Just keep the volume levels down. Anything else from anybody?
I've got a question too, actually. I've got a job that will get me back late in the evening, and I won't always be able to eat. Are there any good places nearby that deliver food?
The quick answer is yes, there are lots of places. There is an Indian nearby. Fish and chips is sold in a shop that is, funnily enough, run by a Chinese family. There is a good Thai restaurant, a Mexican and an Italian pizzeria. They all deliver apart from the Mexican, but that's only 5 minutes walk away. All the telephone numbers are up on the residence notice board. The first time you order from each of them, just ask them to stick a menu into the bag and you'll build up a library in no time. Now, let me tell you about...
You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
You will hear a conversation between two students and their professor, who is asking them to organise a panel discussion for an upcoming conference. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 23. Listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 23. Come in and sit down. Louise, Stuart. I suppose you're wondering why I've asked you both to come here today.
Well, we've heard rumours.
Forget the rumours. I'll get straight down to business. You know that I'm organising a conference on 17th century English literature? Yes, but, well, I've arranged for 3 keynote speakers, and I've invited 25 panellists so that we can have 5 panel discussions. And I want you two to organise one of the panel discussions.
But we haven't done that before. Is it like a team presentation?
No, the purpose is quite different. In a team presentation, the group presents agreed-upon views, as you have both done at the end of a group project.
Yes.
Well, in a panel discussion, the purpose is to put forward different views. We want to expose the audience to several different viewpoints at the same session. It can help the audience evaluate their own positions regarding specific issues, and if it's well conducted, it's usually more interesting than a single speaker forum. Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 24 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 24 to 30. And what exactly do we have to do? Well, you'll take the role of leader or moderator and assistant.
Is that like the role of chairman?
Yes, that's it. Sounds daunting. Not at all. I've already done a great deal of the preparation myself. Let me run through the procedure with you. I've singled out an issue that will entail quite some conflict of opinion. I've selected panellists who are well informed and will probably have contradictory points of view. That's very important, you know.
Actually, I feel a bit nervous. How many panellists will there be?
Well, I've invited 5 panellists for each panel because that's probably the maximum number that an inexperienced moderator can handle. But don't worry, I always invite more than we need because you can be sure someone won't be able to make it, so you'll probably just end up with 4, which is a very manageable number. Oh, I see. And I've chosen a moderator. That's you, by the way.
Ah, but Stuart will help, right?
Yes, I'll get on to timekeeping and whatnot shortly. That's where an assistant is indispensable. But what procedure do we follow to conduct the panel discussion? Don't worry, I was just about to say, I've also settled on the format. What is it? There are various formats that can be followed, but I've always found this one to be very effective. Yes? Okay. Make some notes on these guidelines as I run through them, and ask me questions about anything you don't understand. We're ready? Firstly, the moderator introduces the topic and the panellists.
But we don't know who the panellists are.
Don't worry, I've prepared a short biographical introduction for each one of them, and I'll give you that information tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Next, the panellists are given a set amount of time to present their views on the topic. I'd say about 2 minutes each should be sufficient. Now, this is where Stuart's timekeeping is going to be important. You have to keep to the schedule all the way through, because the lecture room has only been booked for an hour. How do I indicate when the time is up? You stand off to one side of the panel, either with your back to the audience or hidden from the audience, but in full view of the panel and moderator. You have a digital clock or timer, and you hold up the appropriate number of fingers to give the number of minutes. When the time is up, you make a cutting gesture with your hand.
Ah, but what if the panellists keep talking?
Then that's your job to politely intervene and move on to the next segment, which is the discussion itself. Panellists discuss, ask questions, and react to the opinions of other panel members. This, of course, is their primary function and should occupy about 60% of the allotted time.
Stuart will watch the time, right?
Yes, because you'll be making brief notes.
Why?
Well, when the time's up, the moderator shuts down the debate and provides a summary of the discussion.
Oh, and then it's over?
Well, no. The secondary function of the panel is to answer questions from the audience, and that should take up the remaining 15 to 20 minutes. It's the leader's role to recognise appropriate questions and reject those not related to the subject. During the question period, you must maintain strict control, and this will most likely be the toughest part of the whole job.
Oh dear.
Stuart will of course help you here by ensuring that as many people as possible have a chance to ask their questions, and that no one member of the audience tries to dominate. With about 5 minutes to go, he'll announce that there's time for only a couple more questions, then announce, last question.
And then it's over?
Not quite. You still have to acknowledge the involvement of the panellists and invite the audience to thank them with a round of applause. Should I clap too? Yes, you should both take part in the applause. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
You will hear a talk given by a guest lecturer in the Continuing Education Department. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I am going to tell you about the research I have been conducting into the history of soap. While you may be able to find some information on the origins of soap, it is not a substance which has excited a great deal of study so far. What we do know is that even as long ago as 2500 BC, soap was being used. Of course, initially it was only ever used on clothing rather than the body itself. In fact, although soap has existed for so many years, the use of soap for personal hygiene was unheard of until fairly recently, and is considered to be a relatively modern notion. So we can only assume that other activities must have provided the basis from which this key concept arose. To make soap, you need to combine 3 materials in relatively exact proportions. So how is it that these primitive people from over 2,000 years ago could have discovered soap? Well, what these people lacked in technology, they certainly made up for in practical skills. I carried out some experiments using basic techniques to try to find out what people without any chemical knowledge might have observed. And I was able to demonstrate that they would indeed have been able to make a soap-like substance that is not dissimilar to the one we know today. However, it is fair to assume that, as the process requires a certain amount of time and specialization, soap would most likely have only been available in the wealthy communities. Although there are claims that the British Celts and their European counterparts used soap, there is no real evidence that the British colonies of the Iron Age had access to such a product. Now, the history of soap is not easy to discover. As soap is an organic substance, no traces of it remain in archaeological sites, so we have had to rely almost entirely on written texts for our discoveries. Fortunately, there are many of these. The first known written mention of soap was on Sumerian clay tablets dating from about 2500 BC. The tablets spoke of the use of soap in the washing of wool. In another incident, a medical document from about 1500 BC mentions that Egyptians bathed regularly. It also describes how they made soap by combining alkaline salts and oil which they extracted from vegetables. We also know that the Romans used a mixture of earth, soda, and wine to clean their clothes and pots. For the Romans, bathing was not just a matter of hygiene. It was a form of relaxation, a social activity. The bather moved from room to room, getting progressively hotter, until they reached a steamy room where dirt was sweated out and scraped away with a metal blade. The Romans used scented bath oils, but these were used to moisturize the skin rather than to cleanse it, and there is no evidence that they used soap in this way. This is not to say that the Romans did not have soap. During the excavation of Pompeii, a city that was buried under the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, an entire soap factory was revealed, showing that they did in fact have access to soap, but that they simply did not use it for personal hygiene.